Hey guys, Nick here with another Alien video. This one's going to be kind of a theory, just a quick thoughts on kind of what I believe happened to the engineers in Alien Covenant, because now that we're getting more and more pieces put together with this kind of puzzle, I'm starting to piece together, what I think actually happened, or a couple of variables that might have happened in the actual film, and of course we won't know for just a couple of short months. But I do want to mention too quickly that the Red Band trailer for Alien Covenant is out, and really it's not all that different. There's about one shot that's different, but it's very important too. It's a very important shot that kind of symbolizes, I think, a lot of what's going to be happening with David's character in the film. So first off, I want to say that it looks like all of the engineers in the film have been killed by the black goo. That's just my running theory. It just makes the most sense because of all the things that we've heard. David is the sole survivor of Paradise. This is the engineer's homeworld, and the whole kind of landscape has been mutated by the black goo. That's already been, said and confirmed by the various set reports. Obviously, we see it in the trailer when the characters step on the spores that create the airborne black goo virus that goes into the ear, which gives birth to the neomorphs, which is kind of a naturalistic, I guess, alien type. But I believe that with the whole black goo being the weapon that takes out the engineer race, it's pretty interesting because obviously we can see in the trailers for the movie that the Juggernaut is back, of course, the same one that Elizabeth Shaw and David took when they left LV-223 at the end of Prometheus. Shaw even said at that movie that her destination was the engineer's homeworld. She says, I want to go where they came from. I don't want to go back to Earth. I want to go where they came from, and I want to get answers on why they made us and then subsequently wanted to kill us. She says, I demand answers and I deserve to know why. So that was her whole mission, right? That was the root of Prometheus and then leading into Covenant. It's like the through line between both of the movies. What really happened, who's behind all this stuff, all these various mysteries and everything. And I think that Alien Covenant is going to delve deeper into the engineers race. Like I mentioned in a video recently too, I talked about how the engineers probably won't be like, the focus of the entire film, but their presence will be felt throughout it because they're going to be going into the engineers' architecture, their kind of history, civilization, what happened to them, what were they like, and things like that. I have heard from like a source, I don't want to say any specifics, that there will be a scene, at least one scene with engineers. I can't say anything beyond that, but I have heard that there will be at least one scene in the entire movie that has living engineers, whether that's a flashback or not. We're just gonna have to wait and see, but it's interesting to note because in the last trailer for the movie, we got that really cool shot of kind of the engineer's citadel, this giant temple, this dome-like structure with all these statues around everything, and you see that cloaked figure sort of walking through this mass graveyard of corpses, which are of course the engineers, and the only logical explanation is that David and Shaw probably arrived on the planet. Things might have not happened the way they wanted it to, and I believe that David unleashed the black goo and possibly just, said, hey, I'm just gonna kill everyone because that's what he wanted to do, because we know of David's character in the film that he's been testing with things. He's, trying to create life of his own, because in terms of his character arc, I guess you could say, because he is a robot, but he has much more human characteristics, it seems clear that he wants to continue creating, becoming a god of his own, and things like that, because those are big general themes of Prometheus in general. It's all about creation. It was about how the engineers created humanity, and then how humanity created androids, and then when the android David became disillusioned with his own creators, much like we were with our engineers when we found them and everything, and much like the engineers were with us. It's a very nice parallel, or I guess you could say circle of events that kind of all link these three things together, humans, androids, engineers. It's a really nice circle of events, and I think that Alien Covenant will obviously continue with those themes of creation, getting behind the mystery of the xenomorphs and all that kind of thing, because also recently it was confirmed that the engineers did not create the xenomorph, which is great to hear. But yeah, that's my running theory right now, that David and Shaw did make it to the planet. I guess Shaw is dead at this point because it says David's the sole survivor. We don't really hear anything of Shaw, and from the recent set reports it says that Shaw isn't looking good in the film, like her character is not in a good spot, so I'm just gonna say she's dead because it's been 10 years since Prometheus. Who knows what's happened? Obviously we know that David is kind of crazy at this point. It's a little twisted now, trying to create his own weird experiments and everything. Shaw was possibly just just another experiment that he made with the black goo or something, just testing out things just to see what he could, do, because he could. So yeah, let me know down in the comment section below, what do you guys think happened to the engineers in this film? My running theory is that they did arrive on the planet with the Juggernaut, and they infected the planet with the black goo that was still on the Juggernaut ship, because as we know, all of those ships carried tons of those ampules with the black goo in them, so even just a little bit of that stuff getting out would cause pretty much mass destruction. So I mean, imagine having tons of those weapons to deploy. It'd be pretty crazy carnage, and it looks like that shot is the result of that aftermath. Another thing I wanted to point out too really quickly is that in the new shot from the Red Band trailer, where you get to see that kind of statue of the engineer, it looks like it's kind of an anatomical structure of an engineer, like it's all, skinned and everything. But the interesting thing that my friend pointed out, Mr. H Reviews, he said that it's in the shape of the statue David, from David and Goliath. And if you guys know anything about the original David and Goliath story, they were the giant killers. So it's kind of like David is saying he's now the giant killer. He's killed the giants, being the engineers, and now he's kind of like the one above all, like the new god on the planet. So I think that's a really interesting way to go about it, and you can definitely tell that there are deeper themes within this film. They're not just going to do a whole rehash of Alien. So thank you guys again for watching. My name is Nick, and for more on Alien Covenant, stick with the Hyper Network.